Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me to this highly interesting workshop that I've been looking forward so much to participating. My name is, as Flavio mentioned, Sophie Witzke, and I come from something called Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen, which is located in Copenhagen in a city area called Ørestad. I'm head of the Secretariat in this organization, which is working to make Ørestad an innovation district. So, is this the one that I'm, oops, yes. So my agenda for this talk is to start by telling you a little bit about what Ørestad is. I'm sure that a lot of you might not know this city area. And then I will tell you about what we do in Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen. And just as a disclaimer already now, there might be something that I'm not going to go into. So if you have questions, please address them afterwards, because I was not completely sure what the primary interest from you would be. So we do a lot of different stuff. So, but what is Ørestad? Ørestad is a developing city area in Copenhagen on the island of Amager, which is located just outside of the historical center of Copenhagen. Its construction began in 2001, and it is still in progress. It is almost done, but I think that will go maybe 10 years before it's completely constructed. The background for constructing this entire new city is that Copenhagen in the late 80s characterized by major problems, as you all also know from Bilbao. So growth was low, and unemployment was high, and the municipality debt was enormous. Actually, I think Copenhagen was almost at the brink of bankruptcy, so something had to be done. So there was not a lot of optimism in Copenhagen. It was not an attractive city for either families nor businesses to settle down in. So in the early 90s, the Danish parliament adopted a number of new traffic investments to restore Copenhagen. And that included, for instance, the Øresund Bridge, which connects Copenhagen with the southern part of Sweden and Malmö, and that's what you can see here. It also included an expansion of Copenhagen Airport, and it included an entire new metro. We didn't have any metro system at that point. So the bill on traffic improvements was presented together with a bill on developing an entire new district in Copenhagen called Ørestad. And that is the one you can see with the red line around just to the left. And this is Ørestad in another angle. As you can see, the idea was that this new district could finance the construction of the metro, and that the metro conversely would raise the value of the land in Ørestad. So that was the main point. And Ørestad is now almost built, and it's a little more than 3 square kilometers in total. It's 5 kilometers long and quite narrow. It's 600 meters wide. It's built on the concept of new town, and the first residents moved in 2004. Now, approximately a little more than 20,000 people are living in this area, and the numbers will go up. The expected number is going to be at least 30,000 people, and perhaps more. This area is also characterized by a very high concentration of companies and educational institutions. It's localized very close to the center of Copenhagen. It's very well connected with metro lines and a lot of other good infrastructure, and it's also very close to the airport in Sweden. So it's an attractive area to settle down in. I've taken some images just so you can see the transformation of this site. This is in the northern part. And this is taken in 2000, and this is 4 years later. And this is a couple of years ago, where it's almost fully developed. You can see the Danish broadcasting company, that's the blue square in the middle, is located here, and the Copenhagen University as well, and the IT University is also located in this area. This is in the southern part of Ørestad, an image from 2002. This is a couple of years later where they've begun the construction. This is from last year. This part is not fully developed yet because that's the last part they started building. So it's a completely new city that is being constructed with nothing there beforehand. So it's quite an undertaking. This is the city part, which is in the center of Ørestad, in the middle, and this is how it looked for a couple of years ago. It's also still under construction, as you can see. So, as you might imagine, Ørestad, I can just also show you some facts here. You can see how the growth in residents has gone up, of course, because in the beginning there was none, and now there's a little bit more than 20,000 people living there. The growth in numbers of jobs has also gone up, of course, starting by a couple of thousands in the beginning, and we are now having a little bit more than 21,000 people working here, and it's going to go up at least to 30,000 in 2030, and perhaps even more. We have a lot of students. We have a high concentration of researchers and education here. We have more than 20,000 students coming into Ørestad every day. 2 universities at the moment, some more planning on settling down, having campuses here. And we have more than 1,200 companies. Then this is an area characterized by congresses and culture as well, cultural institutions. We have, for instance, something called Bella Center Copenhagen, which is Scandinavia's largest congress center, which is also hosting cultural events, sport events, concerts, that kind of stuff. And as I told you before, we have the Danish Broadcasting Company located here. It's also, as I told you before, has a good infrastructure and is well connected, and it's a sustainably constructed city based on new principles on how you can build housing that is sustainably thought. Yes. So all of this is really good, and as you can see, it has a lot of potential, a high concentration of knowledge, business, companies, and residents. But this city has also come with some children diseases, which means that continuous growth and development is not a given. And one of the reasons for this is that the area is based on a modernist planning approach, focusing almost exclusively on real estate development and infrastructure connections. So it has resulted in a area which is built up on a square grid street layout with wide open spaces, which is difficult to use and which is often void of social life and people. So for that reason, the area is also heavily criticized amongst urban planners and architects and politicians and ordinary people in Copenhagen and in Denmark for being unfriendly in a way. So this is some of the background for why we have started working, or why we have been founded to help develop this area. And I think I'll just have, this is a graph showing how the job has increased in Ørestad. That's the green line compared to some of the other districts in Copenhagen, which I will just skip for now. And then I will move on to tell you a little bit about Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen, where I am living. Working. You must apologize my English. Maybe I should have had a simultaneous translator from Danish to Spanish. Good. So this is a little bit about Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen. We were founded in 2017 by 14 companies and institutions. One of our main founders is a Copenhagen development agency or corporation called Copenhagen Port and City and Port Development Corporation, which is a semi-private corporation that is owned by the Danish state and by Copenhagen municipality, and which is driving a lot of the development in Copenhagen. And this agency or corporation has been the developing agent in Ørestad. So when they were well underway with the construction, they decided to found Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen to gather all the different actors in the city in order to make collaboration and development. And we are organized as a network organization that brings together all these various actors that are located in Ørestad. Our purpose is to support and drive the business development and the city development of Ørestad by making it a leading innovation district. Our vision is, we have here, to make Ørestad a well-known and recognized green innovation district that will work as a living laboratory for sustainable business and city development. So we have this, we work very much locally by using this area, which is so clearly defined, as a living lab to test out various new innovations, various projects, where we especially focus on green innovation. Our mission is to mobilize Ørestad by strengthening its narrative and build strong relationships between the city district's participants. It is one of our goals is, of course, to change the common perception of Ørestad as a boring city that is not a place you want to visit. And of course, it's also to foster innovation between the universities and the private sector. So Ørestad is setting the framework for this. And in this framework, or within our organization, people can meet, develop new ideas, innovations, and make projects together. We work with 4 different areas, and those areas are very pragmatically chosen because they reflect the member base we have, the companies that are members in Ørestad Innovation City Copenhagen. So we work with the built environment, with Ørestad's experiences and attractions. We also work with technology because we have a lot of tech companies in Ørestad. And then we work with education and research. Our organizational model is that we are a non-profit association. This also means that our highest decision-making body is our board of directors. And we have currently 11 members in our board. I think there's room for 2 more. And then we have a secretariat with 3 employees, where I'm the head. And we are supporting and facilitating collaboration in this association. And this is just to show you our board of directors. We have a chairman. He is a director in Rambøll, which is a large construction company with over 5,000 employees. And we have then some people from the universities, some deans and rectors and different things. And we also have the CEO from the Copenhagen City and Port Development Corporation. This is some of our members. Most of them are large companies or large institutions, but we also have smaller ones. It is important to note here that Copenhagen municipality is actually not a member, and they are not part of our association yet. We're just trying to onboard them at this moment, and yesterday we received the news that they're going to fund us, and we are going to go into a negotiation process for the next year in order to find out exactly how they can become part of our association. So this is important because that's actually a problem for us, that we do not have the municipality as part of our membership base. Instead, we have the Copenhagen City and Port Development Corporation, which is very closely tied to the municipality. But I think it will help a lot if we also get the municipality on board. Yes, and then I want to talk a little bit about what we do of our tasks and activities. If you look at the 3 tasks to the left, the matchmaking, thematic networks, and event and activities, they are all activities we make in order to build up what we call a relational infrastructure in the area. So when we were funded in 2017, we started out by making activities that could connect people, or connect the different participants in Ørestad together. And we have spent a lot of time by doing that. We do that by, for instance, making matchmaking that could be between researchers and companies, or students and companies, making different collaborations between them in order to spread out the talent and give the companies access to the talent base on the universities, as well as making innovation projects between researchers and companies. We also do that by making thematic networks that are more structured. Those networks is per invite, so each of our members is allowed to sit in a network with 1 or 2 employees, and then they meet 4 times a year to discuss different concerns they have that bring them together in Ørestad that they can then work upon. We also have some events and activities, but all those 3 are activities that is meant to build up a structural relationship or an relational infrastructure, as you can also call it. And I will just skip the next 3 for now and show you some examples. We have a network for city development and urban life. We also have a network for the investors where they can share their different concerns and collaborate. We have a network for innovation and technology, and then we have a network for communication. And they meet altogether 16 times a year, and there's more than 80 delegates sitting in these networks. Then we have some of the activities we have, especially centered on the SDGs. We have had some conferences and events on how to integrate them into the business. We have had a roundtable, Nordic roundtable, during the C40 summit in Copenhagen a couple of years ago that also focused on sustainable city development, just to mention some of them. But besides these infrastructural or social events and activities we are making, we are increasingly trying to make projects that is helping developing Ørestad as a place. So we have come to realize that it's not enough just to have this relational bound or connection with each other. We also have to do something that is making changes in Ørestad as a place. So we're now looking into some more strategic initiatives, which is actually very much centered on urban development, because the response we are getting from our members, also from the companies, is that what they're missing the most in Ørestad is actually cultural initiatives, social life. So it's not so much things that we would normally connect with companies and companies' concerns. It's actually very much about making this city work. So we're working on a large-scale initiative, which is going to combine the 3 big venues we have in Ørestad. And the aim of this strategic initiative, which is called Scene of the City, is to lift the quality of the public space and rebrand Ørestad as a neighborhood of music. And we're going to do so by developing 3 public squares and launch new music initiatives. And the partners in this project is the Danish Broadcasting Corporation and the Danish Radio Concert Hall, which is the blue building in the top. And then it's the Bella Center Copenhagen in the middle, which is this very, very big Congress Center. And then in the bottom, we have the Royal Arena, which is a huge music venue, and Live Nation Entertainment, which is the world-leading corporation within live entertainment and e-commerce, as far as I know. Besides those partners, we have this Copenhagen City and Port Development Corporation, Copenhagen Metro, and the University of Copenhagen. And this initiative consists of 2 different aspects. We have what we call a hardware aspect and a software. And the hardware part consists in transforming these 3 sites, squares along the metro line. And we are going to, here in the fall, launch an international competition for architects, landscape architects, and artists to come up with design ideas for these spaces. And then the idea is to use these new spaces as physical sites for cultural events and social life. Besides that, we're also working on a softer part to put some new life into the city. And this is where we will foster a collaboration between the 3 venues that I mentioned before. We're going to create a music festival in the winter and also some other events. And then we will attempt to open up these institutions. They're very closed in themselves. So there's a lot of activities are going on inside these institutions, but they are not giving anything back to to the city of Ørestad. So we are going to build a connection to the surrounding city, we hope. So this is something we are working on now. We are also having other projects. For instance, we are working with retail to help support the retail, and we are working on a smart city project also, where we are going to develop, to test different solutions in Ørestad, just to mention some of the things we are working with. So to jump to the next, our business model is a little bit difficult and tricky, and I don't think I will recommend it to anyone here. Because we are an association, we are funded through memberships only. And that makes us extremely vulnerable, for instance, to periods like Corona or ups and downs. And it also means that we have to spend a lot of time finding out what each of our members wants from us, instead of focusing on getting one job done. So it's a vulnerable model, I think. We were born with a startup capital, so we had some couple of years to get more members on board. And then the Copenhagen City and Port Development Corporation has contributed with a larger sum of money each year so far. From this year, they have just cut 500,000 Danish kroner of their funding, which is the same more or less as one employee. And this is where we are so happy that we just yesterday received the news that the municipality is going to grant us this 500,000 Danish kroner so we can continue. And then they will collaborate with us in the longer term. So just to show you in more detail how our business model looks, each of our members, they contribute with a fee, and that fee reflects the number of employees they have. So the more employees, the larger the sum. Yes. And then I will just end by saying a little bit about the possibilities and challenges that I think a place like Ørestad Innovation has, because there's, in my opinion, no question that complex issues like, for instance, city development and sustainable transition, business development, is a task that is extremely difficult to solve just by a municipality or public institution on their own, just as well as private companies cannot do a lot on their own. So public-private partnerships have a lot to offer here because they're bringing all the stakeholders together. There's also another advantage by making these kind of organizations, and that is that we have already brought all the relevant stakeholders together. They are committed and they are connected, and that makes it so much easier to work with them. They know each other. They have already defined common goals to work towards, and by having this sort of a forum where you can meet, you can work faster and more focused, I think. So such partnerships across sectors can be extremely forceful. They can open doors, and they can be also, for a municipality, a really good way to find out what is going on out in the areas where you're working. We also have some challenges, at least where I come from. I'm not sure that is something general, but it's from my perspective, some of the challenges could be, if you're a member-based association, as the one that I'm representing, that you can easily end up with lacking a direction because you have so many different agendas. We have people coming from the medical, the pharma sector. We have others coming from the construction sector. Someone are more interested in making concerts. And to unite into a common goal is very important, and is something that should be thought of before you start working. It can also be problematic that the decision-making power can be lacking. Our board of directors are our highest decision-making power body, or whatever you should call it. But in reality, when we have concrete projects, it's very much up to the participants in the project to find a model where they can decide how they should move forward. Because a big company does not necessarily want to follow the decision that another company in the board has made. So we have to sort of negotiate these things in each project we make. And then, of course, as I just mentioned before, lack of resources. It takes some resources to facilitate a meeting between participants in an urban area. And it also takes a lot of resources to make some projects that actually makes a difference. So that is also important to have thought of well in advance. And I think that's it. Thank you, and feel free to contact me if you have any further questions. And I'm sure that there will be questions also about some of our activities more concretely. So thank you.
So, coming out from your presentation, a couple of ideas. I want to know a little bit more about why companies like Rumble, which is kind of large, I can understand that they may have a social corporate responsibility, which is normal for large companies, but suddenly they get involved in the city making. Was that difficult to manage? Because it's not what they do for a living. So, why large companies, they really get involved in the urban development, in the activation of the public spaces?
I think it's also varies from company to company. To take Rumble as an example, they are very active in they feel a responsibility to the area where they're located. This is the headquarters that they have placed in Ørestad, and they actually moved it from the northern part of Zealand, north of Copenhagen, because they thought maybe, I don't know if it was a little bit cheaper, I'm not sure of that, but it was located better, closer to Sweden, closer to the airport. And they've also been part of constructing, actually, the grid. So they've been involved in laying out Ørestad. But they are very interested in giving something back. So maybe not all of them, but at least some of the directors, they can see a benefit in getting involved in developing Ørestad, both simply from a responsibility point of view, but also because I think the employees also like to go to work each day in an area that is interesting and well-functioning, and where there's a place they can go and get a cup of coffee, some events that they can go to after work, some kind of life. So it's not this dead place where they just commute to and work and then they go back. So that's at least a very important reason for many of the companies to get involved. That is to maintain, to keep their employees and to attract talent. So placemaking is essential. Yes.
And the second aspect, you mentioned the opportunity to be an urban lab to test innovation, particularly on sustainability. I also have seen the C40, which is kind of the largest association of the global cities, like tackling climate change. Any specific outcomes on this kind of lab that you are promoting, or something like we can learn from?
Unfortunately, not so far, because we have used the first 3 years to establish this social bond between our members. And I got my position almost a year ago, and since I started, we have developed the place into a more project-oriented way. Okay. And we are now, rolling out big projects, but the results are not there yet completely. I mean, of course, we have a lot of stronger bonds between companies and universities. So the researchers and the students, they are making cases for the companies. We have case competitions, stuff like that. But I think what you're talking about is more large scale in Ørestad, I think, as a living lab.
Or even like themes that you are exploring, I don't know, circularity,
yes,
zero carbon, like what are kind of the key, let's say 3-4 topics that you say, okay, that's going to be kind of our future lab is going to move in this direction?
we are working very much on using Ørestad as an example of sustainable city development. How can you work sustainably, both in a social, economic, and environmental way when you're constructing a new city? Simply using it as an experimental area. And then we are also working on energy, but not in developing new sustainable energy sources, but more in investigating how we can make buildings more energy efficient, how we can work with energy awareness within the population living there, how can we actually work with the people living there, and how can they become part of this green transition. We have also worked with green transportation and mobility. Yeah. That's another big topic. I think that's
kind of the drivers.
Some of the drivers for now. We are working pragmatically in the way that our focus areas that reflects the interests of our members. So we have a large part of our members from the construction and building industry. So they are really interested in how can we work with, for instance, wood in
construction,
yes,
larger schemes. Okay, so I think later on we'll have an opportunity to have a roundtable with the rest of the speakers, but I would like to thank you, Sophie, for your presentation.